Welcome back. Today we're going to do a closure of the summer field that we were in our last video. We brought forward a lot of new information. It was a different kind of site, and so we want to get just kind of a really nice overview, let you see what came out of that field this year. And I'm amazed, and I hope you will be too. So let's just take a real quick scan on what some of the stuff we want to look at today. A lot of hammerstones were coming out of that field, and I want to give a couple comments on hammers, but our hammers are right over here. There's flint hammers, hardstone hammers, and I want to just talk briefly about the hammers. The whole idea of a hammerstone is a conundrum. We don't really know exactly what they were using those for or to what extent. We have a good idea, but there's tremendous diversity among hammerstones, and nobody's really looked at that yet. I grabbed a few in particular. And what's neat about these are made of flint, and I wish that you could stick a hand right through that video here so I could drop each one of these in your hand. These are beautiful flint hammers. And here's my thoughts. Color, shape, size, texture. These are circular, these are circles, these are ovate, and these have been heavily used. But the one thing that seems to really stick out to me as I collect and walk of years of walking of hardstone hammers, flint hammers, is that each one of these is extremely dense. It's very heavy. Each one is made from the highest of high quality flint. All three, and even this fourth one, really high quality. When you pick them up, heavy. And I'm sharing that because more times than not, when you're walking, things are dirty, they're sandy, they're muddy, and you don't really know what it is, but you think it's something. And I've always said, use your second set of eyes, which are your fingers. And now it's using your intuition. And you can look for patterns, feel patterns. These things will always feel heavy and dense. Collect. Wash them later. When you're in the field, collect. Now, when we were getting ready to get in the field last time, I mentioned a few things that you want to take with you, and I love every one of you because you remind me of everything that I cruised over. And I didn't mention, I just assumed that you know that you want to bring a Ziploc to put your stuff in. I grabbed a couple this morning to let you know that depending on your fields where we walk, you need not only Ziplocs, but you need 5-gallon buckets. But, a quart-size Ziploc is good. And these are freezer quality because flint is very sharp and it can cut and rip through your bags. So if you get the freezer thickness, it may save you a world of hurt. So I had the Ziplocs. I didn't talk about spray. We have deer flies and mosquitoes here in Ohio. If you get a good spray that's got DEET, D as in Denver, E-E-T, DEET in it, that'll seem to do a better job on the deer flies and for sure ticks, which we have a lot of. And part of the habitat of a tick is on the ground. So they get on your feet, they get on your shoes, and they go up your legs. Hence, spray your shoes, your feet, and your ankles really well with your spray. And that probably will take care of most of your problem with ticks. And I didn't mention a water bottle. Thank you for all that. Again, it's, we should never assume, and you're right, take water bottles with you. Okay, so we're in the field. We collected. I'm done. The corn is probably head high in that field by now. And I want to do a real quick pass over what came out of there with a few comments. If you look at my hammers, you'll know these are clean. These have been washed. And you'll see there is a general color to these. Know the color of the rocks and tools that you're working with. All right? The size, hand, semicircular shape, color, and mineral content. And that'll find so many artifacts for you. Slipping down past the hammers is this bag. And you heard me say, oh, preform. This is probably 2/3 to 3/4, or 4/5 even, of all the preforms that came out of that field this year alone. I have cores. This is probably 50% of the cores that came out of that field. And I've been using them this way because I'm doing a talk on cores. Once again, like a Flint hammer, they are heavy, they're dense, and they're being used because they have a high quality flint that they get nice blades from. Bags, just to show you what's going on here. I have 10 bags just like this sitting at my house. They've been washed and they simply have the field number. It's 1647. I can go through these tomorrow. I can go through these in the fall, or in the dead of winter when things slow down, I can go through them then and see what I've got. What I do is I start and I separate. These are broken flake, broken blade artifacts after I've gone through some bags. Over here, more broken artifacts. These will need to be gone through eventually, separated out into which particular type of tool they are. But if you notice, I'm going to turn this one around. These aren't necessarily the traditional blade. We said a blade has a ratio. It's like 1 to 2, 1 to 3. For every one width, there's 2 or 3 lengths that are there for it. Basically, when I think of a blade, the lateral sides aren't necessarily parallel, but semi-parallel, and there's a uniformity to an elongated flake tool, usually uniface. These, however, at the cone of percussion, the energy hit, it went out in the flint, it fanned out. There's no parallel lateral flow at all of the energy. More flakes coming out of that field. These are whole tools. These are whole, and most of them, once again, are flake tools. The reason I'm taking some time on this, there's a super archaeologist out west by the last name of Collins, and one of his books on Clovis blade technology. I hope this is in your library. If not, get it. He and Gramley are the two that have really done good work on looking at blade flake technologies. It's important because every culture had that technology, and the technology got modified a little bit as time went on, but the same lithics, the same work was going on. And if you get the understanding of these things, how they're made, how they're grouped, where you find them, what they came from, that will really give you good footing for your understanding in archaeology. More stuff that came out of the field. I want to call your attention to 2 pieces right here. The cone of percussion is right here and right here. And when you look at a flake tool or a blade tool, you always start with a cone of percussion. You go to the polar opposite side, which is here and here, and you look. In this case, we have what's called a rollover. The energy came out, went over, and broke this off from the block of flint. This one, not as pronounced as this one, but these are both technical rollovers. I want to call this to your attention because I used to think, oh, it was a flaw, a rollover, they threw the piece away. But the last couple years I've been looking at these guys really heavy, going to the polar opposite and seeing extensive use. There's a giant Buren flake right here so that they could reset it to take off more retouch to further this particular tool. What I've noticed on the rollovers, check your own artifacts. If you go to the lateral point or the lateral edge at the distal end, you'll see that these have been turned into wonderful, wonderful tools. It never ceases to amaze me, the things that come off good sites. You're looking for one thing, but other things pop up. For example, this was laying in an area with a lot of fire-cracked rock. And you know I turn over all my fire-cracked rock with my trowel. Someone said, why do you use a trowel? I use a golf club. Well, I'll tell you why. Your eyes see closer to the ground, the better they see. So I use something short, so I'm right by the ground. And yeah, my back gets tired and my legs get sore, but I'm serious. When I go to the field, I'm collecting. I'm trying to put together the integrity of my site. And I found that the 3 feet or less is primary sight zone for my eyes. So this was laying like this. I flipped him over and bam, I've got the blade of an axe, just a corner of an axe, with just the typical fire break, which is real uneven. If it were a plow where it was initially struck with a blade, there would be a clean cut before it wavers like that. It's not there. This is a fire break. Okay, we talked about these 2 rollovers. Out of this field, I think there were 30 or 40 rollovers. I want to continue that just for a minute. What I did is I actually got every one of them out, and I looked at the lateral side, distal end corners, and I noticed that almost on every one of them, they were missing. Either missing or missing and reshaped and rechipped there. And that's just, man, that's hand in the cookie jar evidence that those were used as significant tools, which raises a question. Were these rollovers accidental strikes, or were these intentionally done to create a specific type of tool? Now that rollover edge is very hard and very difficult to break. And so now you've got engraving tools that are powerful, strong. So that's the mystery that I'm working on right now, looking at my sites. What % of those are used as tools, and were they done this way on purpose? So I'm challenging you, go through your stuff, see what you find, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. All right, let's keep moving through this. Man, I can't say enough about these 2 books. I hope that they're there. I hope that people who love you will buy them for you, and that's a good thing. This is some of the flint that came out of that field this year, and I display it purposely this way. Sometimes it's a one-day walk, or it's the accumulation of maybe a week's walk. I try to select the better things, but what I do is I want to have a good representative of what's coming out of the field, because that keeps me thinking. It keeps me asking the big questions. What is going on? Is it multiple cultural? Is it singular? Is it just paleo? Is it paleo, early archaic? All these questions need to be asked. So as we just pass through the frames, you're going to see all stages of tools, of flake tools, of a blade. Right here, nearly parallel sides. The length is at least 3 times the width. And then this one is a preform down to a point that's prehistorically missing. And there's other tools that came out on that particular occasion. Sweeping this way. Again, just some of the anomalies and some of the things that dominated on the site. Only 2 Adena pieces have come out. Most of the stuff that come out of there is archaic, and we have one of our bifurcates to back that up. But we're also getting some late woodland material, which is pretty cool. Some intrusive mound, late woodland. But notice this. Take a look at these, people. And a special look. Starting here, just sweep right along here. Remember what I said? Color, shape, size, texture. You know what? Patterns. Are these rectangular? Are they circle? Are they oblique? Are they mismatched? Or is there a similar square shape? And I was excited about this because not only was there a significant squared shape, but these were intentional strikes like Buren's. And then I looked at each of the edges and I could see damage from use. An unknown tool that has not been discussed very much lately. Cruising through these quickly and just so excited. Look at all the Ashtabula points. A few years back, it was said that none came out of this county, that they were all up around Lake Erie, northeast Ohio. But this is, as soon as you say it isn't, something says it is. And great example of what's coming off this field. Big unexpectations. More blades, knives, flake tools. Down here, some blades. And the flake ones, we said fan out a little bit. Coming over here, this was, a lot of this was the last day that we walked the field. And I remember picking this one up on the camera and saying, look, this is a final stage preform or possibly a knife. It does have retouch on it and some wear use, so this is actually used as a knife. So really quickly, this is some of the artifacts, just some, probably less than 10%. That's come out of that field that are significant, that have a story to tell. A lot of them are in these conditions over here. They are in bags of broken. They've not been separated out. Eventually they will get separated out and they'll go into other containers, and the other containers will have the names of what's going on. And this is winter work. You know, wedges, are we looking at knives? Are we looking at blades? Are we looking at flakes? Are we looking at cores? You know, what are we looking at? And this is just a convenient way for you to store your stuff and to get to it later. Wow, how was the Tour de France? If you don't like bicycles, I just took you on a crazy race. Thanks for joining us. Closure on our first summer site. And we will be back on the dig site the next time we get together. Thanks for joining us today. What a crazy way to end our time with you. The video before, I pointed out stinging nettles to you. And I'm going to show you this one because when you're going in and out of a field, both of these plants tend to grow around the borders of your fields. You need to know what they were. Yesterday and the day before, I was digging on my dig site, and I'm now getting poison ivy all up my arm. So come on in and take a close-up look at this plant. Poison ivy. Usually they grow in three separate leaves, three separate leaves clustered together, and they have like a thumb paw on them usually. If you get in this stuff, wash, and if you can't wash, look for what I called jewel weed. Look it up, know what jewel weed is. Get to it. It usually grows in wet areas, wet swampy areas, wet roadside areas, wet fence row areas. Get it, get the juice and go all over it where you were exposed to the poison ivy, and more than likely that'll take care of you. So hey, thanks again for the trip. Bye.